Hello guys, we're back with my palette. Like I said, I'm going to be doing some painting today, as well as sketching. I've got all of the characters sketched in where I want them to be, got all of the background set in and done, got all the snake around the border as my son wanted, and now we're going to be painting the tower that we sketched earlier on. I'm just moving a few things around as I've noticed. We're a little bit close. So I could move things up. Again, we've sketched the tower. You can't really see the pencil, but it is all sketched and ready. That's why I've started to paint. You'll have a bit of sun bleach. I do apologise if you're getting a bit of sun blockage and the sound's a little bit different. I am in a different room. I'm not in the normal place where I am. And we've got a few bits of gold to put in. I'm only going to put in a base layer of yellow first for now. And that is because the yellow is drying quickly and it's watered down a little bit because I've only got a little bit of yellow, so I may have to go and search out some more colours for myself, or put it on a playlist in the. Oh, hello mate, how you doing, buddy? Hope you like it. Oh dear. You haven't got Mario here anymore. Let's just say that. You've seen more on this. Okay. I gather that you might have been watching. Don't watch too much. Gonna have to go higher. Let's put on the playlist. That would I've been listening to. Gives me inspiration. Not gonna freak out.
After waking, Kratos opens Pandora's box to reveal, well, nothing. It's empty. This anticlimax is taken to the next level as Kratos and Zeus stand over the now ruined, flooded, and destroyed world they have created.
Face me, Father. It is time to end this. My son. We endured. We survived. Now, we venture outside to hunt our enemies. You shall see no rest. We are the division, and we're coming for you.
Our fighters still so unite every day.
That hurts. Whoa, big message.
Well, she managed to hold on and finally reached the summit again.
What are you saying now?
During the scuffle, both gods fall into Gaia's chest and fight next to her heart. In the final moments, Kratos kills both his father and Gaia by impaling their hearts simultaneously.
Alright, so you can't see nothing at all. I did wonder if that light was actually going to affect anything.
But wait, Zeus somehow transcended his body, and his spirit form attempts to kill Kratos once again, using a mixture of fear, violence, and those memories Kratos hates so much. But after 10 years of this living nightmare, Kratos is able to knock Zeus' spirit back into his body, and then beat him to death in a lovely touching father-son moment. Athena arrives in her new ascended form and gives us one last revelation. Pandora's box did actually contain something. It contained evils such as fear, which envelops the gods. But there was also an even more powerful weapon inside that box. And that was hope, which sounds ridiculous, but helped Kratos achieve his ambitions to defeat the gods of Olympus. Athena asked for hope to be returned.
Yeah, I didn't think it'd be great today. Yeah, well, I said great. It is definitely very sunny. So I've got the window open and stuff like that. But there's not much I can do about the lights. I've got all the curtains down because I've been painting the whole room. So I don't want to get everything painted at the same time.
The story isn't quite over yet, though, as Kratos' body is no longer here, and a trail of blood leads over the cliff edge. You could call it a cliffhanger ending. See what I did there? Sorry. We now know that in 2018, the god of war has moved into Norse myth, in which Kratos becomes a dad again. But this time, he has a spectacular beard to protect him.
It's all about the power of the beard. Yeah.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I'll see you next time.
Bye. My bum. Everybody go and see my butthole. I've got a butthole. But yeah, I do apologize about the poor quality of the picture. It is being lived, and I do appreciate everybody that does join in and say you watch it. Because it is, yeah, there's not much I can do with it, guys. I do apologize.
Since its premiere in 2005,
Can you guess what this is, though?
War has given us mythology with a heavy dose of hack and slash. In the most recent installment, Kratos finds himself pitted against the gods of Norse mythology, this time with his son by his side. But who are the new gods that Kratos has to contend with? Hi, I'm Jetset from the leaderboard, and we're going to give you a rundown of all of the Norse mythology in God of War.
Okay, it's time for me to start mixing colours and making different new ones.
She agreed to marry Odin to stop the war between the two factions of gods, the Aesir and the Vanir. As Odin's wife, she was the warrior queen of the Valkyries and the master of satyr magic. Odin picked up one or two things from her. When Freya left Odin and fled to Midgard, he placed a curse on her, preventing her from harming any living creature. A prophecy foretold that her son by Odin, Baldur, would be killed, leading her to place him under a spell of vulnerability. God of War's Freya is a friend to Kratos and Atreus. She's one of the first people they encounter who recognize them for the gods they are, and she proves a useful companion. Freya's magic reanimates Mimir's head, and she heals an injured Atreus. Freya's counterpart in Norse mythology is the goddess associated with love, beauty, fertility, satyr magic, war, and death. To be fair, almost every Norse god ends up being associated with war and death. She rides in a chariot pulled by two gray cats. When warriors die in battle, Freya chooses half of them to go to Folkvandr and the other half to go to Valhalla with Odin. Balder. God of War players will recognize Balder as a tattooed villain who just won't die. He's the son of Freya and Odin, half-brother to Thor and Tyr, and uncle to Lodi and Magni. The game makes much of the fact that he's impervious to pain. To make things worse, he can't handle pleasure because of a spell cast on him by his mother Freya. God of War's Balder is a manic, restless character who not only brings some serious battles, but also shows God's softer side when he pleads with Freya to lift his curse. In Norse mythology, Balder is the son of Odin and Frigg. The best-known story about Balder deals with his death, which leads to the beginning of Ragnarok. His closest mythological analog is Apollo, and he's described as beautiful, bright, shining, and loved by all. In the story of his death, Balder begins to dream about his demise. Worried, his mother Frigg promises that all things on Earth will not harm her son, except mistletoe. Loki tricks Balder's blind brother, Hoder, into shooting Balder with a mistletoe arrow, killing him. Some scholars believe our Christmas tradition of kissing under mistletoe is about Balder, which is not only morbid, but fitting given how horrendous holiday parties can get. Loki. If you're watching this video, you're probably deep enough in God of War to be immune to spoilers. But if you're not, turn back. We've got a big spoiler coming your way in the form of Loki. So, it turns out Atreus is Loki, son of the Jotun Fae and Kratos, the god of god-killing and quick-timed events. He's a young boy who's intelligent and compassionate, but once he learns of his true nature as a god, he gets way cockier. It was Faye who taught Atreus the languages of the Nine Elves and archery. She wanted to name him Loki, but Kratos argued against it, naming him instead after his friend and fellow Spartan, Atreus. He's not especially tricky or prone to lies or disguises, but he's still young. Who knows how much he'll grow into his namesake? I don't know about you, but sassy god Atreus seemed much more like the classic trickster god than the sweet Atreus we met in the beginning of the game. Loki's parents are the giants Lofrey and Falbati. He's referred to as the blood brother of Odin, not of Thor. Loki is the father of Hel, goddess of, well, Hel, Jormungand, the world serpent, and Fenrir, the giant wolf that devours Odin at Ragnarok. Loki is a trickster, sometimes helping, sometimes hurting, but always playing by his own rules. Atreus is not a character in Norse mythology, but in Greek mythology, he was king of the city-state Mycenae. He was also the father of Agamemnon and Menelaus, who was married to Helen, of Troy. In Greek, his name means fearless. God of War's Atreus is certainly fearless, but only time will tell if he embraces his trickster roots. Thor. Thor in the game is one of the leading antagonists, even though he barely appears in the storyline at all. Thor is the son of Odin, father of Lodi and Magni, brother of Balder, an all-around colossal jerk. His primary goals are to wipe out Jotunheim at Odin's request, thinking without the giants that the gods could prevent Ragnarok, and murder the crap out of Kratos and Atreus. However, he ends up leaving this task to his sons. In Norse mythology, Thor isn't a blonde Adonis. He's a ginger, but he's the strongest of all the gods and becomes twice as mighty when he wears his magic belt. He's the son of Odin and a Jotun, or giant, sometimes called Fjord. Not only was Thor the ideal warrior, but he also was invoked at weddings in father's fields. He rides a chariot pulled by two goats, and if he gets hungry, he can kill and eat his goats, bless their remains with Mjolnir, and resurrect them so they can pull his chariot again. Thor was the most popular god among warriors and ordinary people in Norse society, who often wore a hammer charm the same way Christians wear a cross. Mimir. In God of War, Mimir stands as a god of wisdom and knowledge. He is Odin's counselor and ambassador. He is imprisoned by Odin until Kratos cuts off his head and carries it around with him wherever he goes. He claims to be the smartest man on Earth, so sharp that Balder doesn't believe he doesn't know Kratos' whereabouts. Mimir had previously advised Odin to marry Freya to end the Aesir-Vanir War. In-game, Mimir is Kratos' sassiest accessory. While cruising around the Lake of Nine, he tells Atreus much better stories than what Kratos was capable of, and also plays a key role in interpreting lore that's uncovered throughout the game. Mimir's uncanny knowledge of the past, and seemingly the future, makes him an essential member of Kratos' crew. The Mimir of Norse myth is slain by the Vanir because they believe him to be cheating on behalf of the Aesir. They sent his head back to the Aesir. Odin preserved the and carried it around with him, frequently calling on its wisdom. Mimir possessed a well that feeds the roots of Yggdrasil, the world tree. Odin wanted to drink from the well, but Mimir would not allow it. Perhaps Mimir of myth is as sassy as the headed god of war. Sindri and Brock are two dwarf brothers who forged Kratos' axe, Leviathan. Sindri is also responsible for creating Thor's hammer, Mjolnir. The brothers have opposite personalities, with Brock being aggressive and crass, while Sindri is nervous and clean to the point of obsession. Many refer to them as the Huldra brothers. A Huldra is a seductive female forest spirit, similar to a nymph or a mermaid. So maybe there's a side to the dwarf brothers we haven't seen yet. Who's your favorite brother? Let us know in the comments. Here at the leaderboard, we love Sindri, that fastidious little nerd. In myth, Brock and Sindri, also called Brokkr and Atri, are best known for one story. Loki bragged that another clan of dwarfsmiths, the son of Ivaldi, were the best craftsmen. Brock challenged the sons of Ivaldi to a contest to see which brothers would make the most splendid gifts for the gods. If Brock and Sindri won, they would receive Loki's head as a reward. Despite Loki's best effort to sabotage them, Brock and Sindri were judged to have created the best gifts, but Loki would not let them take his head, saying it would damage his neck. Instead, Brock sewed Loki's mouth shut so the trickster couldn't brag of his cleverness. Modi and Magni. Unlike in God of War 4, where Modi and Magni are Thor's children, originally they're sons of Odin. They first show up with their uncle Balder, trying to intimidate Mimir into revealing to them some important information. Magni is boastful and cruel, while Modi is crude. Both sons have power over lightning, just like their divine father. They are always fighting each other over Thor's hammer Mjolnir, but get this, it seems that Thor favors Magni over Modi. Modi plays a crucial role in Atreus' development. We see Atreus embracing his godhood by stabbing Modi right in the neck. In myth, Modi and Magni are the sons of Odin and a giantess called Yarnsatsa. Their names mean brave and great, respectively. After Ragnarok, the end of days, Modi and Magni survive and inherit Mjolnir, but they are tremendous players in Norse mythology otherwise. Odin, Hugin, and Munin. While Odin doesn't appear in the game, his influence permeates throughout the story. Odin is the king of the gods, father of Balder, Tyr, and Thor, and the one who imprisoned his advisor Mimir. He's bright, but also cruel and paranoid. His son Tyr set up traps to keep Odin out of the realm of the giants, knowing his father wanted only to destroy them. In return, Odin murdered Tyr. Odin's ravens are glowing green spies scattered throughout the world, and when you kill them, you get XP. In Norse myth, Odin is the ruler of the gods, the god of wisdom, magic, and of course, war and death. Only Freya is more skilled at magic than Odin, even though among Germanic people, magic was the first for women. It was considered shameful for warriors to be sorcerers. Many call Odin All-Father because he created both the gods and humankind. Unlike many gods that are depicted as the peak of physical perfection, Odin is missing an eye. He plucked it out in exchange for a drink from Mimir's well. One drink from the well gave him knowledge of the past, present, and future. Instead of sitting in the Hall of Valhalla in Asgard, Odin prefers to wander the 9 realms to see what's going on with his eye. Odin is sometimes called the Raven God. The most well-known of those ravens are Hugin and Munin. Hugin means thought, and while Munin often translates to memory, it's more accurate to say desire. They are sent out every morning to collect knowledge for Odin. Tyr. Tyr is the son of Odin, Thor's brother and Balder's half-brother. Like Odin and Thor, he does not appear in the game, but has a prominent role in the story. Unlike Odin, who is feared and distrusted, Tyr is well loved by the people of the 9 realms. He is very wise and cunning, and willing to share his wisdom while Odin keeps it to himself. Tyr wanted peace between the giants and the Aesir. Unlike his father Odin, who only wanted to defeat them, the giants worked together to build Tyr's temple, one of the central regions you explore in the game, from which you can reach the other realms. Tyr is the god of law and justice. Oh, and also war, because they didn't already have enough gods of war. In some sources, he's the son of Odin, but in others, he's the son of the giant Hamir. He was once the leader of the gods, but over time his role was overtaken by Odin and Thor. He's often called the bravest of the gods, but he's only got one hand, as he sacrificed one to the giant wolf Fenrir when the gods tried to bind him. 9 realms, Yggdrasil, and the Bifrost. In God of War, the Bifrost is a device that holds time. Using the device, you can travel to any of the 9 realms, which are intertwined with the world tree Yggdrasil. You move an actual physical realm travel bridge using the Bifrost to connect to towers in each of the 9 realms. Only gods can travel via the Bifrost in legend. Mortals would burn up if they set foot on the Rainbow Bridge, but the 9 realms are connected by the world tree Yggdrasil. Yggdrasil was the tree Odin hung from for 9 days and nights in return for learning runes. the magical writing system of the Vikings. It's the most beautiful and most significant of all trees. The 9 realms it links are Asgard, home of the Aesir, where the honorable dead rest in Valhalla and Folkvangr; Vanaheim, home of the Vanir; Alfheim, home of the Light Elves; Midgard, the world of humans. Tolkien was inspired by this term to call the world Middle-earth. Svartalfheim, home of the dwarves and the dark elves, which are thought by some scholars to be one and the same. Muspelheim, the realm of fire; Niflheim, land of ice; Jotunheim, the land of the giants, where Mimir's well can be found; and Helheim, home of the dishonored dead. Fafnir. Sindri tells you Fafnir is a dwarf. He has a storeroom full of treasure, including a whetstone Sindri wants. You later find a chained-up dragon that Mimir calls Fafnir. When Atreus asks why he's a dragon now, Mimir answers merely, "Funny how life works, isn't it?" In myth, Fafnir was the son of a dwarf king. He was the most reliable and most aggressive of his father's sons, so he took up the task of guarding his father's treasure, eventually becoming a dragon. He ends up slain by the mortal hero Sigurd, the foster son of his brother Regin. The story of Fafnir's defeat is actually the inspiration for Wagner's opera Siegfried. World Serpent Jormungand. The World Serpent can be found encircling Midgard. The witch tells you he's destined to battle Thor at Ragnarok. World Serpent scales are an essential item used for upgrading your weapons in God of War. You can find the scales around the Lake of the Nine. The name of the World Serpent is Jormungand, which means Great Beast. It's a sea serpent that encircles Midgard, the world of humans. Ancient people believed Jormungand's movements caused earthquakes. Jormungand is the great enemy of Thor. During Ragnarok, Thor and Jormungand have their showdown and eventually kill each other. Jormungand is the child of Thor's other nemesis Loki and the giantess Angrboda. Satyr is an evil type of magic in the game, used by enemies like reapers and ravens. To the ancient Norse, Satyr is a type of magic that focused on learning and changing destiny. Practitioners would go into a trance and travel outside their bodies through the 9 realms to gather information and bend fate. Satyr was a woman's magic, and men who practiced it gave up traditional masculine roles in Norse society. Freya was the goddess most associated with Satyr sorcery, but Odin was also quite adept at it. Satyr was concerned with the Norns, 3 deities analogous to the Greek fates. Fate was a much looser concept in Norse than Greek mythology, and was subject to change at the will of the gods, elves, and even humans. With Kratos moving from Greek to Norse gods, it's anyone's guess who's next. Our vote is for Ancient. I'm Jensen, and thanks for watching our overview of the mythology of God of War. Did we miss anything? Comment below and let us know. Don't forget to click the bell icon to become part of the notification squad. And if you like getting more from your games, subscribe to the leaderboard, your home for video game facts. Whether you're new to the God of War franchise, drawn in by many near-perfect reviews for its latest installment, or a day-one fan of the long-running PlayStation franchise, you know that outside of all the epic battles against mythic monsters and deities, the series has consistently put one thing front and center in the story of the Spartan demigod Kratos' vengeance against the gods that have wronged him. Family. Well, that and violence. There's a lot of violence. Hi, I'm Jetset with a leaderboard, and we're taking a look at the story of Kratos and his path from hyper-violent warrior haunted by the deaths of pretty much every single member of his family to hardened but protective father. He's still pretty violent, but also kind of the world's greatest dad. Come boy, we're getting started. The early years. In the first installment of God of War, and later in God of War Ghosts of Sparta, we learned that Kratos' mother was a human woman named Callisto, and his father was Zeus. The day Kratos was born, Zeus' wife Hera ordered that Kratos be killed because she was angry at Zeus for having yet another child outside of their godly wedlock. But Zeus took pity on baby Kratos and spared him. He was left to be raised by his mother amongst the Spartans. Eventually, his mother gave birth to another boy, Deimos. While Kratos and Deimos are still children, Zeus learns of a prophecy stating that he would be killed by one of his sons, a marked warrior. He sends Athena and Ares, the original god of war, to find the son destined to kill him. They suspect the son in question to be Deimos due to a visible birthmark over most of his body. Before Deimos is taken away, Kratos tries in vain to protect him and is struck away by Ares, leaving him with a scar over his right eye. In honor of his brother whom he believes to be dead, Kratos tattoos himself with red markings mirroring his brother's birthmark. This begins his lifelong resentment toward the gods. He swears to avenge his brother's death. He works his way from Spartan soldier to Spartan general, expanding an army of 50 Spartan warriors into an army of 1,000. He also marries a woman named Lysandra and fathers a girl named Calliope. The comic book series God of War Quest for Ambrosia provides a little bit of insight into this time period of Kratos' life, during which a young Calliope contracts a skin disease. According to Spartan law, this means she must be cast out of their society and left for dead because of her weakness. This sets Kratos off on a quest for ambrosia, the food of the gods, which he learns is capable of curing his daughter. Along the way, he becomes Ares' champion in a game that's sort of like one of those dinner for schmucks scenarios, but the rich people are Greek gods and the schmucks are powerful warriors battling each other for the prize of, ambrosia. Kratos wins, saving his daughter and proving that he has always kind of been a family man. Though some of his Spartan friends have to tragically die along the way, basically starting a long-running trend where everyone close to Kratos bites the dust. In the coming years, Kratos' thirst for battle only grows stronger, up until his powerful Spartan army meets its match against an army of barbarians. Their captain Ulrich also needed ambrosia to cure his dying father. On the battlefield, Ulrich sees a chance to avenge his father, for whose death Kratos is kind of sorta indirectly responsible for because he took the ambrosia Ulrich's father needed. With his inevitable death looming, Kratos makes a last-ditch appeal to Ares, pledging his allegiance to the god of war in exchange for the deaths of Ulrich and the rest of the barbarian army. Ares obliges, and in accepting Kratos as his servant, gifts him with the Blades of Chaos, the first incarnation of his signature weapon. A pair of blades chained to his body, which he uses to kill Ulrich and many, many more after him. The tragic backstory. At first, and we're still in flashback territory here, but trust me, it's important, Kratos faithfully serves Ares while still fighting for Sparta alongside the warriors with whom he grew up. However, his life gets turned upside down during what seemed like a routine village raid. Apparently, raiding villages is something more crazed Spartans just tend to do. Mid-raid, an oracle warns Kratos not to enter a particular temple, but blinded by bloodlust, he ignores her warning. Unbeknownst to him, Ares has transported Lysandra and Calliope into the temple. Kratos just up and kills them before realizing what he's done and defining his character development for the rest of video game history. Right then and there, Kratos renounces Ares, but not before the oracle colors his skin with the ashes of his dead family, giving it the white, ghostly hue that earns him the nickname Ghost of Sparta. This reputation spreads throughout Greece, and he becomes feared for his transgression marked by his pale skin. The Furies. The PSP game God of War Ascension picks up soon after Kratos' renunciation of Ares, who orders the Furies to find and punish Kratos for breaking his oath. We learn that the Furies were created in war as a manifestation of madness and rage, tasked with taking vengeance on any traitor or oathbreaker, which basically means they're just the beings for the job. Kratos learns of Ares' plan from Orcos, son of Ares and Alecto, one of the Furies. Orcos explains that Ares wishes to take control of Mount Olympus from Zeus, but due to a pesky rule forbidding inter-deity violence, Ares decided to groom a warrior powerful enough to do the job for him. This Orcos was initially supposed to be this warrior, but he was perceived to be unworthy early on in his life. He instead pledged loyalty to his mom's side of the family, working as the Oathkeeper for the Furies. Orcos informs Kratos that he is now Ares' hope at overtaking Zeus. Eventually, Kratos is captured by the Furies, but he gradually defeats each of them, overcoming a series of illusions, tricks, and straight-up mano-a-mano beatdowns. But upon returning to Orcos, he finds out that the Furies made Orcos the keeper of Kratos' oath to Ares. Orcos asks for an honorable death that would free them both from Ares, and eventually Kratos acquiesces, killing his ally and continuing the whole everyone who gets close to him dies thing. Breaking his oath also breaks a sort of spell, once masking and now revealing to him the true scope of the horrors he's committed. In confronting his past transgressions full on, he vows to redeem himself through service to Mount Olympus, deciding for once and only once that his problems can be solved through hard work and not bloodshed. Persephone's plot. God of War Chains of Olympus, also for the PSP, picks up 5 years into Kratos' service to Mount Olympus. Mind you, we're still not at the present timeline for the first God of War game. The franchise creators really liked fleshing out prequel content before Solo, a Star Wars story, was even a note card on a corkboard at Disney. During this time, Kratos notices the sun disappear, which he knows means that Helios, the sun god, has been captured. Morpheus, the god of dreams, quickly uses this opening to put all of the gods into a deep sleep. Kratos then sets out on a quest to rescue Helios and save the gods from Morpheus' curse. Kratos descends into the underworld, where mid-quest he's informed by Hades' unwilling wife Persephone that if he wants, he can shed his god-given powers, rendering him pure and capable of entering the Elysian fields, where he'll be reunited with his daughter Calliope. He does so without hesitation, only to learn that Persephone and the Titan Atlas were the ones who kidnapped Helios. The two of them plan to destroy not just the gods, but every single being, including themselves, Kratos, and Calliope. Kratos reluctantly leaves and regains his powers, kills Persephone, and re-chains Atlas to the Pillar of the World. However, having continued down this path of bloodshed and making himself too tainted to ever visit the Elysian fields again, he resents the gods even deeper, and essentially loses his daughter a second time, something I don't think he or anyone really knew was possible. The series is beginnings. Here we are, about halfway into this video, finally at the very first God of War game. While the original God of War includes flashbacks, its present timeline begins with Kratos wishing to be freed from his nightmares of past violence, including, most notably, of course, the murder of his wife and daughter. Athena encourages him to find and open Pandora's box, with which he would be imbued with enough power to defeat Ares. Kratos asks Athena if completing this task will free him from his nightmares, and Athena kind of dodges the question, but Kratos sets off to find Pandora's box anyway, still motivated by his desire to defeat the God of War who was wronged him. Kratos locates Pandora's temple on the back of Kronos, the original Titan and father of Zeus, and after overcoming its many traps, puzzles, and baddies, he becomes the first human to reach Pandora's box. However, Ares gets wind of this and hurls a huge pillar at Kratos right when he finds the box, killing him with some help from Zeus in the guise of a gravedigger. Kratos escapes from the underworld, reclaims Pandora's box, and in unleashing all of its horrors into the world, grows much larger in size, giving him an even footing from which to battle Ares. He eventually uses the gargantuan blade of the gods to kill the God of War. Having completed this task, the gods inform him that they've forgiven his past sins, but are incapable of ending his nightmares. Knowing he wouldn't be freed from his curse, Kratos attempts suicide, jumping off the aptly named Suicide Bluffs, but he's saved from death by Athena, who offers to make Kratos the new God of War. Since it's the title of the franchise after all, and death wasn't an option, Kratos accepts, strengthening his capability for lots and lots of violence. More family drama. The final PSP game, God of War: Ghosts of Sparta, begins with Kratos having visions of his mother being held at the Temple of Poseidon in Atlantis. Despite warnings from Athena not to go, Kratos sets sail for Atlantis, where he finds his mother Callisto, who he thought was long dead. She tells him two things: that his father, who he doesn't yet know is Zeus, brought her there, and that Deimos, his brother, also thought long dead, is trapped and being tortured in the domain of death, which honestly doesn't sound that much different from dying. Anyway, he's technically still alive. Kratos asks for the identity of his father, but then Callisto turns into a monster, and Kratos is forced to kill her. She thanks Kratos for freeing her, adding a sort of silver lining to the continued tragedy that is Kratos' family, and, the fact that he now has had to kill another member of his family. On the way to free Deimos, Kratos learns from Athena that it was she and Ares who took Deimos away as a child, deepening Kratos' hatred for the gods, as every new bit of information he learns tends to do. While he finds and frees Deimos, his brother initially attacks him, angry at Kratos for not being able to save him as a child. However, God of Death Thanatos snatches Deimos mid-bitter reunion. Kratos follows and saves Deimos from death at the Suicide Bluffs where Thanatos has taken him. The brothers finally fight alongside one another against Thanatos. Tragically, Thanatos kills Deimos before Kratos finishes the God of Death off for good. This is maybe the most heightened version of Kratos. He now feels responsible for the deaths of basically his entire family and sees the solution as truly brutal God-on-God violence. God of War 2. More gods, more war. God of War 2 opens with Kratos' resentment of the gods at an all-time high, as he spends his time aiding Sparta in raiding and destroying cities around Greece. This alienates Kratos further and further from the other gods. Eventually, in the city of Rhodes, an eagle appears and zaps Kratos of his large size and some of his godly powers, imbuing them instead into the Colossus of Rhodes, giant statue in the city. Kratos defeats the powerful statue with the help of the Blade of Olympus provided to him by Zeus. This is a different powerful godly sword than the Blade of the Gods from earlier. Shortly after, Kratos learns that the eagle was actually Zeus, clearly sending mixed messages, and he demands Kratos' loyalty. Kratos is not in a position to argue, weakened from his fight with the big bad statue. Still, Kratos refuses, and Zeus kills him with a blade. If you're keeping track, Kratos' death count is now 2, though Kratos once again escapes eternal damnation thanks to the help from the Titan Gaia. Kratos learns from Gaia of Zeus' upbringing. Kronos too was told of a prophecy that he would be killed by one of his own children, and ate each of his sons as they were born. Rhea, Zeus' mother, secretly saved Zeus from this fate and put him in the care of Gaia, who raised him until he destroyed most of the Titans, kind of like Zeus did for him. We later find out from Zeus that Kronos too killed his father, Uranus, and Zeus' goal is to finally break this cycle of father-son murders. With Gaia's guidance, Kratos then journeys to the Sisters of Fate, who he's informed can help him travel back in time and obtain the Blade of Olympus that Zeus first used to defeat the Titans, and later, of course, Kratos. This journey introduces lots of key Greek mythological figures, like Theseus, Cerberus, and the Golden Fleece. Remember Jason and the Argonauts? With the crazy claymation? Yeah, like that. Once Kratos reaches the Sisters of Fate, they inform him that his destiny is not to kill Zeus. This doesn't exactly sit well with the guy who's defining himself at this point by the revenge he plans to take. And this being the game that it is, he fights the Sisters of Fate and wins, eventually traveling back to the exact point at which Zeus betrayed him. Kratos fights Zeus with the Blade of Olympus, which he takes from his own impaled body, but before he can deliver the killing blow, Athena jumps in the way of the blade and takes the hit, finally revealing to Kratos that Zeus is his father. Kratos goes back in time again and enlists the help of the Titans, who he leads in war against the remaining gods on Mount Olympus, turning one man's quest to kill his father into a world-shattering war. 3 God of War 3 picks up shortly after 2, as this god-titan war is being waged. As Kratos gradually kills the remaining gods, each of their deaths unleashes a tragedy into the world. He takes out Poseidon first, and this covers the whole entire world in a deep sea, which means anyone not on mountains or high enough above the water are toast. So basically, everyone in the world not important to the story are dead at the outset. This guy really, really hates his dad and won't let the death of most of humanity stand in his way. Then he confronts Zeus alongside Gaia, but the God King blasts both of them away. Kratos asks Gaia for her help while hanging on for dear life, but she informs him that she only ever saw him as a pawn and used him as a way to reach Zeus. Without Gaia's help, Kratos falls into the underworld yet again. Death count 3. Before all hope is lost, however, the ghost of Athena offers to help Kratos, and in a showing of goodwill, provides him with the Blades of Exile, a new set of blades resembling his signature weapon of the past. He uses his new blades to fight his way out of the underworld. He reaches and defeats Hades, unleashing a new plague onto the world, and also gaining the power to swim back through the river Styx back to the world of the living. Kratos kills Helios next, which blacks out the sun and truly turns Earth into a hellscape. Under the advice of Athena, Kratos heads up to Mount Olympus to find Pandora's box, because it contains the power he'll need to defeat the gods for good. Kratos then kills Hermes, the demigod Hercules, Kronos, the goddess Hera, the blacksmith god Hephaestus, and has a romantic tryst with Aphrodite for some reason. My dude's life is eventful. This journey takes Kratos to the famous mythical labyrinth, where he rescues Pandora. The plan at first is to kill Pandora, which is the only way he can open her namesake box, but she quickly feels to Kratos like a proxy daughter. Seeing Calliope in her, he decides he no longer wants to kill her, the inverse of pretty much any other time he's weighed whether or not to kill someone. Funnily enough, Pandora wants to embrace her destiny, and in the middle of a battle with Zeus, she sacrifices herself, and Kratos is able to open Pandora's box once again. In a cruel twist of tragic Greek fate, however, the box is empty. Gaia reappears, now vowing to kill both father and son, and Kratos and Zeus continue their battle inside Gaia, next to her heart, where Kratos is able to impale both Zeus and Gaia's heart with the Blade of Olympus. This kills Gaia for good, but merely unleashes Zeus' spirit, which plunges Kratos into a torturous nightmare. But with the help of Pandora, whose spirit lives on within him, I guess, Kratos forgives himself for killing his family, unleashes the power of hope, and kills Zeus with his bare hands. Turns out the power of hope was just what Athena had thought Kratos would find in the box. But he had already obtained the power the first time he opened it. Kratos realizes that means Pandora's life was lost solely as a casualty of Kratos' quest for revenge, serving no greater purpose. Tragedy yet again. Athena orders that Kratos imbue her with the power of hope so she can rule over humanity. However, Kratos himself with the Blade of Olympus, freeing the power of hope into the world at large instead. Now, Kratos has successfully killed his father, continuing the cycle of patricide, but also saving the world both from the plagues he unleashed onto it and the mad gods. So maybe his grand gesture of violence was sort of justified. We're just about to get to the most recent installment, and that's definitely where Kratos shows off his parenting skills. But real quick, I want to remind you to enter our weekly console giveaway. Go to leaderboard.nyc/giveaway and log in with virtually any internet account. For your best chance to win, you're going to want to subscribe to the leaderboard on YouTube and sign up for our email updates. You can also follow us on social media and tell your friends about the giveaway for even more chances to win. And that brings us to The Boy. When 2018's new God of War opens, Kratos is living in a remote forest in the land of the Norse gods, having just lost his wife, whose funeral he's preparing alongside his son, Atreus. Kratos' new son is probably somewhere between 8 and 12 years old, so some time has passed since Kratos destroyed, then saved, the world. The last wish of Faye, Kratos' dead partner, was to have her ashes scattered from the highest peak in the Nine Realms. So Kratos and Atreus set off to climb the highest mountain they know of. Just as they're about to leave, however, the god Baldur attacks. Kratos fights him off and is able to set out on his journey, but Baldur can't really die, so he pops up again from time to time. Soon Kratos and Atreus meet an unnamed witch, who later turns out to be Freya, who we even later find out is Baldur's mother. The game draws a parallel between the Spartan and the witch, as the paternal Kratos has hidden Atreus' godhood from him, thinking it to be for Atreus' sake, but ultimately just fearing having to tell Atreus of his past. Similarly, Freya made Baldur incapable of being killed against his own wishes, thinking it was in his best interest, when truly she didn't want to lose her son. But before we find out any of that, the father and son team overcome lots of new hardships, and even travel to another realm, before they're finally able to reach the peak of the mountain, as it's simply named. It's there that they're informed by Mimir that the actual highest peak in all the Nine Realms, she did say all 9 realms after all, is in Jotunheim, the realm of the giants, who are to the Norse gods what the Titans were to the Greek gods. But Jotunheim is only accessible through a portal that requires items from a lot of different video game quests to open. At the peak, they meet Mimir, who accompanies Kratos and Atreus in the severed head. Soon, father and son are attacked by Magni and Modi, godsons of Thor. Kratos kills Magni while Modi gets away. Soon after, Atreus becomes ill from the disparity in knowledge, thinking himself immortal when he is really, a god. I guess that can make you sick. Why not? After Atreus is healed, Freya urges Kratos to tell Atreus of his godhood, and he does. This leads to possibly the clearest moment indicating that Kratos has changed, whether over the 10 or so years since the last game or during his journey with his son. The two encountered a weakened Modi, and Atreus, arrogant after learning of his godhood, kills the weakened god. Kratos erupts with anger, teaching Atreus that he was already defeated and his death was unnecessary. This is a far, far cry from the ghosts of Sparta of the past, who would bask in the opportunity to kill a god who threatened him and his son. Soon after, Kratos and Atreus face Baldur once again, this time protected by a Freya wanting nothing less than to see her son defeated. As the battle comes to a conclusion, it looks like Kratos has fallen into his old ways. He has his hands around Baldur's neck, but Atreus reminds him of his own lesson, and Kratos lets Baldur decide his own fate. This fate turns out to be killing Freya, and Kratos decides that means death. Apparently, a significant lesson in not killing isn't as big a deal as stopping a child from killing their parent on a quest for vengeance, a motivation he knows all too well. The game ends with Kratos and Atreus spreading Faye's ashes from the tallest mountain in Jotunheim, both having grown during their journey. Kratos has learned to trust Atreus, and rather than hide from hardships, deal with them. And Atreus has learned that underneath Kratos' cold, hard exterior is a warm, caring man. Aww! Who would have thought a warrior so in love with the sight of the blood of his enemies, who ended up becoming the literal god of war, would eventually be a good dad? Probably not anyone who's only played the first God of War game, but now that the latest entry in the series is out, plus a bunch of sequels that really drive home the importance of Kratos' family, it feels right, and like it might be one of the better character arcs in video game history. Would you want Kratos to be your dad? Let us know in the comments, and if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the leaderboard, your home for video game facts.
Okay, I don't know what's happened to the sound. Maybe it ran out. Oh. That's weird.
Whether you're new to the God of War franchise, drawn in by many near-perfect reviews for its latest installment, or a day-one fan of the long-running PlayStation franchise, you know that outside of all the epic battles against mythic monsters and deities, the series has consistently put one thing front and center in the story of the Spartan demigod Kratos' vengeance against the gods that have wronged him. Family. Well, that and violence. There's a lot of violence. Hi, I'm Jetset with a leaderboard, and we're taking a look at the story of Kratos and his path from hyper-violent warrior haunted by the deaths of pretty much every single member of his family to hardened but protected father. He's still pretty violent, but also kind of the world's greatest dad. Come boy, we're getting started. The early years. In the first installment of God of War and later in God of War Ghosts of Sparta, we learn that Kratos' mother was a human woman named Callisto, and his father was Zeus. The day Kratos was born, Zeus' wife Hera ordered that Kratos be killed because she was angry at Zeus for having yet another child outside of their godly wedlock. But Zeus took pity on baby Kratos and spared him. He was left to be raised by his mother amongst the Spartans. Eventually, his mother gave birth to another boy, Deimos. While Kratos and Deimos are still children, Zeus learns of a prophecy stating that he would be killed by one of his sons, a marked warrior. He sends Athena and Ares, the original god of war, to find the son destined to kill him. They suspect the son in question to be Deimos due to a visible birthmark over most of his body. Before Deimos is taken away, Kratos tries in vain to protect him and is struck away by Ares, leaving him with a scar over his right eye. In honor of his brother who he believes to be dead, Kratos tattoos himself with red markings mirroring his brother's birthmark. This begins his lifelong resentment toward the gods. He swears to avenge his brother's death. He works his way from Spartan soldier to Spartan general, expanding an army of 50 Spartan warriors into an army of 1,000. He also marries a woman named Lysandra and fathers a girl named Calliope. The comic book series God of War Quest for Ambrosia provides a little bit of insight into this time period of Kratos' life, during which a young Calliope contracts a skin disease. According to Spartan law, this means she must be cast out of their society and left for dead because of her weakness. This sets Kratos off on a quest for ambrosia, the food of the gods, which he learns is capable of curing his daughter. Along the way, he becomes Ares' champion in a game that's sort of like one of those dinner for schmucks scenarios, but the rich people are Greek gods and the schmucks are powerful warriors battling each other for the prize of, ambrosia. Kratos wins, saving his daughter and proving that he's always kind of been a family man. Though some of his Spartan friends have to tragically die along the way, basically starting a long-running trend where everyone close to Kratos bites the dust. In the coming years, Kratos' thirst for battle only grows stronger, up until his powerful Spartan army meets its match against an army of barbarians. Their captain Ulrich also needed ambrosia to cure his dying father. On the battlefield, Ulrich sees a chance to avenge his father, for whose death Kratos is sorta indirectly responsible for because he took the ambrosia Ulrich's father needed. With his inevitable death looming, Kratos makes a last-ditch appeal to Ares, pledging his allegiance to the god of war in exchange for the deaths of Ulrich and the rest of the barbarian army. Ares obliges, and in accepting Kratos as his servant, gifts him with the Blades of Chaos, the first incarnation of his signature weapon, a pair of blades chained to his body, which he uses to kill Ulrich and many, many more after him. The tragic backstory. At first, and we're still in flashback territory here, but trust me, it's important, Kratos faithfully serves Ares while still fighting for Sparta alongside the warriors with whom he grew up. However, his life gets turned upside down during what seemed like a routine village raid. Apparently, raiding villages is something more crazed Spartans just tend to do. Mid-raid, an oracle warns Kratos not to enter a particular temple, but blinded by bloodlust, he ignores her warning. Unbeknownst to him, Ares has transported Lysandra and Calliope into the temple. Kratos just up and kills them before realizing what he's done and defining his character development for the rest of video game history. Right then and there, Kratos renounces Ares, but not before the oracle colors his skin with the ashes of his dead family, giving it the white, ghostly hue that earns him the nickname Ghost of Sparta. This reputation spreads throughout Greece, and he becomes feared for his transgression marked by his pale skin. The Furies. The PSP game God of War Ascension picks up soon after Kratos' renunciation of Ares, who orders the Furies to find and punish Kratos for breaking his oath. We learn that the Furies were created in war as a manifestation of madness and rage, tasked with taking vengeance on any traitor or oathbreaker, which basically means they're just the beings for the job. Kratos learns of Ares' plan from Orcos, son of Ares and Alecto, one of the Furies. Orcos explains that Ares wishes to take control of Mount Olympus from Zeus, but due to a pesky rule forbidding inter-deity violence, Ares decided to groom a warrior powerful enough to do the job for him. This Orcos was initially supposed to be this warrior, but he was perceived to be unworthy early on in his life. He instead pledged loyalty to his mom's side of the family, working as the oath keeper for the Furies. Orcos informs Kratos that he is now Ares' hope at overtaking Zeus. Eventually, Kratos is captured by the Furies, but he gradually defeats each of them, overcoming a series of illusions, tricks, and straight-up mano-a-mano beatdowns. But upon returning to Orcos, he finds out that the Fury made Orcos the keeper of Kratos' oath to Ares. Orcos asks for an honorable death that would free them both from Ares, and eventually Kratos acquiesces, killing his ally and continuing the whole everyone who gets close to him dies thing. Breaking his oath also breaks a sort of spell, once masking and now revealing to him the true scope of the horrors he's committed. In confronting his past transgressions full on, he vows to redeem himself through service to Mount Olympus, deciding for once and only once that his problems can be solved through hard work and not bloodshed. Persephone's plot. God of War Chains of Olympus, also for the PSP, picks up 5 years into Kratos to Mount Olympus. Mind you, we're still not at the present timeline for the first God of War game. The franchise creators really liked fleshing out prequel content before Solo, a Star Wars story, was even a note card on a corkboard at Disney. During this time, Kratos notices the sun disappear, which he knows means that Helios, the sun god, has been captured. Orpheus, the god of dreams, quickly uses this opening to put all of the gods into a deep sleep. Kratos then sets out on a quest to rescue Helios and save the gods from Morpheus' curse. Kratos descends into the underworld, where mid-quest he's informed by Hades' unwilling wife Persephone that if he wants, he can shed his god-given powers, rendering him pure and capable of entering the Elysian fields, where he'll be reunited with his daughter Calliope. He does so without hesitation, only to learn that Persephone and the Titan Atlas were the ones who killed
Happy Little Mountains.
The two of them plan to destroy not just the gods, but every single being, including themselves, Kratos, and Calliope. Kratos reluctantly leaves and regains his powers, kills Persephone, and re-chains Atlas to the pillar of the world. However, having continued down this path of bloodshed and making himself too tainted to ever visit the Elysian fields again, he resents the gods even deeper, and essentially loses his daughter a second time, something I don't think he or anyone really knew was possible. The series is beginning. Here we are, about halfway into this video, finally at the very first God of War game. While the original God of War includes flashbacks, its present timeline begins with Kratos wishing to be freed from his nightmares of past violence, including, most notably, of course, the murder of his wife and daughter. Athena encourages him to find and open Pandora's box, with which he would be imbued with enough power to defeat Ares. Kratos asks Athena if completing this task will free him from his nightmares, and Athena kinda dodges the question, but Kratos sets off to find Pandora's box anyway, still motivated by his desire to defeat the God of War who was wronged him. Kratos locates Pandora's temple on the back of Kronos, the original Titan and father of Zeus, and after overcoming its many traps, puzzles, and baddies, he becomes the first human to reach Pandora's box. However, Ares gets wind of this and hurls a huge pillar at Kratos right when he finds the box, killing him with some help from Zeus in the guise of a gravedigger. Kratos escapes from the underworld, reclaims Pandora's box, and in unleashing all of its horrors into the world, grows much larger in size, giving him an even footing from which to battle Ares. He eventually uses the gargantuan blade of the gods to kill the God of War. Having completed this task, the gods inform him that they've forgiven his past sins, but are incapable of ending his nightmares. Knowing he wouldn't be freed from his curse, Kratos attempts suicide, jumping off the aptly named Suicide Bluffs, but he's saved from death by Athena, who offers to make Kratos the new God of War. Since it's the title of the franchise after all, and death wasn't an option, Kratos accepts, strengthening his capability for lots and lots of violence. More family drama. The final PSP game, God of War Ghost of Sparta, begins with Kratos having visions of his mother being held at the Temple of Poseidon in Atlantis. Despite warnings from Athena not to go, Kratos sets sail for Atlantis, where he finds his mother Callisto, who he thought was long dead. She tells him two things: that his father, who he doesn't yet know is Zeus, brought her there, and that Deimos, his brother, also thought long dead, is trapped and being tortured in the domain of death, which honestly doesn't sound that much different from dying. Anyway, he's technically still alive. Kratos asks for the identity of his father, but then Callisto turns into a monster, and Kratos is forced to kill her. She thanks Kratos for freeing her, adding a sort of silver lining to the continued tragedy that is Kratos' family, and, the fact that he now has had to kill another member of his family. On the way to free Deimos, Kratos learns from Athena that it was she and Ares who took Deimos away as a child, deepening Kratos' hatred for the gods.
Oh, okay,
As every new bit
no wonder, it's all shut. This place.
His father initially attacks him, angry at Kratos for not being able to save him as a child. However, god of death Thanatos snatches Deimos mid-bitter reunion. Kratos follows and saves Deimos from death at the suicide bluffs where Thanatos has taken him. The brothers finally fight alongside one another against Thanatos. Tragically, Thanatos kills Deimos before Kratos finishes the god of death off for good. This is maybe the most heightened version of Kratos. He now feels responsible for the deaths of basically his entire family and sees the solution as truly brutal god-on-god violence. God of War 2. More gods, more war. God of War 2 opens with Kratos' resentment of the gods at an all-time high, as he spends his time aiding Sparta in raiding and destroying cities around Greece. This alienates Kratos further and further from the other gods. Eventually, in the city of Rhodes, an eagle appears and zaps Kratos of his large size and some of his godly powers, imbuing them instead into the Colossus of Rhodes, a giant statue in the city. Kratos defeats the powerful statue with the help of the Blade of Olympus provided to him by Zeus. This is a different powerful godly sword than the Blade of the Gods from earlier. Shortly after, Kratos learns that the eagle was actually Zeus, clearly sending mixed messages, and he demands Kratos' loyalty. Kratos is not in a position to argue, weakened from his fight with the big bad statue. Still, Kratos refuses, and Zeus kills him with the blade. If you're keeping track, Kratos' death count is now 2, though Kratos once again escapes eternal damnation thanks to the help from the Titan Gaia. Kratos learns from Gaia of Zeus' upbringing. Kronos too was told of a prophecy that he would be killed by one of his own children, and ate each of his sons as they were born. Rhea, Zeus' mother, secretly saved Zeus from this fate and put him in the care of Gaia, who raised him until he destroyed most of the Titans, kind of like Zeus did for him. We later find out from Zeus that Kronos too killed his father, Uranus, and Zeus' goal is to finally break this cycle of father-son murders. With Gaia's guidance, Kratos then journeys to the Sisters of Fate.
I might have to end this in a minute, guys, because I'm trying to do there. The sun is knocking it off, and there's not much I can do about that area.
Greek mythological figures like Theseus, Cerberus, and the Golden Fleece. Remember Jason and the Argonauts? With the crazy claymation? Yeah, like that. Once Kratos reaches the Sisters of Fate, they inform him that his destiny is not to kill Zeus. This doesn't exactly sit well with the guy who's defining himself at this point by the revenge he plans to take. And this being the game that it is, he fights the Sisters of Fate and wins, eventually traveling back to the exact point at which Zeus betrayed him. Kratos fights Zeus with the Blade of Olympus, which he takes from his own impaled body, but before he can deliver the killing blow, Athena jumps in the way of the blade and takes the hit, finally revealing to Kratos that Zeus is his father. Kratos goes back in time again and enlists the help of the Titans, who he leads in war against the remaining gods on Mount Olympus, turning one man's quest to kill his father into a world-shattering war. Three-peat. God of War 3 picks up shortly after 2, as this god-titan war is being waged. As Kratos gradually kills the remaining gods, each of their deaths unleashes a tragedy into the world. He takes out Poseidon first, and this covers the whole entire world in a deep sea, which means anyone not on mountains or high enough above the water are toast. So basically, everyone in the world not important to the story are dead at the outset. This guy really, really hates his dad and won't let the death of most of humanity stand in his way. Then he confronts Zeus alongside Gaia, but the god king blasts both of them away. Kratos asks Gaia for her help while hanging on for dear life, but she informs him that she only ever saw him as a pawn and used him as a way to reach Zeus. Without Gaia's help, Kratos falls into the underworld yet again. Death count 3. Before all hope is lost, however, the ghost of Athena offers to help Kratos, and in a showing of goodwill, provides him with the Blades of Exile. blades resembling his signature weapon of the past. He uses his new blades to fight his way out of the underworld. He reaches and defeats Hades, unleashing a new plague onto the world, and also gaining the power to swim back through the river Styx back to the world of the living. Kratos kills Helios next, which blacks out the sun and truly turns Earth into a hellscape. Under the advice of Athena, Kratos heads up to Mount Olympus to find Pandora's box, because it contains the power he'll need to defeat the gods for good. Kratos then kills Hermes, the demigod Hercules, Kronos, the goddess Hera, the blacksmith god Hephaestus, and has a romantic tryst with Aphrodite for some reason. My dude's life is eventful. This journey takes Kratos to the famous mythical labyrinth, where he rescues Pandora. The plan at first is to kill Pandora, which is the only way he can open her namesake box, but she quickly feels to Kratos like a proxy daughter. Seeing Calliope in her, he decides he no longer wants to kill her, the inverse of pretty much any other time he's weighed whether or not to kill someone. Funnily enough, Pandora wants to embrace her destiny, and in the middle of a battle with Zeus, she sacrifices herself, and Kratos is able to open Pandora's box once again. In a cruel twist of tragic Greek fate, however, the box is empty. Gaia reappears, now vowing to kill both father and son, and Kratos and Zeus continue their battle inside Gaia, next to her heart, where Kratos is able to impale both Zeus and Gaia's heart with the blade of Olympus. This kills Gaia for good, but merely unleashes Zeus' spirit, which plunges Kratos into a torturous nightmare. But with the help of Pandora, whose spirit lives on within him, I guess, Kratos forgives himself for killing his family, unleashes the power of hope, and kills Zeus with his bare hands. Turns out the power of hope was just what Athena had thought Kratos would find in the box. But he had already obtained the power the first time he opened it. Kratos realizes that means Pandora's life was lost solely as a casualty of Kratos' quest for revenge, serving no greater purpose. Tragedy yet again. Athena orders that Kratos imbue her with the power of hope so she can rule over humanity. However, Kratos impales himself with the blade of Olympus, freeing the power of hope into the world at large instead. Now, Kratos has successfully killed his father, continuing the cycle of patricide, but also saving the world both from the plagues he unleashed onto it and the mad gods. So maybe his grand gesture of violence was sort of justified. We're just about to get to the most recent installment, and that's definitely where Kratos shows off his parenting skills. But real quick, I want to remind you to enter our weekly console giveaway. Go to leaderboard.nyc/giveaway and log in with virtually any internet account. For your best chance to win, you're going to want to subscribe to the leaderboard on YouTube and sign up for our email updates. You can also follow us on social media and tell your friends about the giveaway for even more chances to win. And that brings us to The Boy. When 2018's new God of War opens, Kratos is living in a remote forest in the land, having just lost his wife, whose funeral he's preparing alongside his son, Atreus. Kratos' new son is probably somewhere between 8 and 12 years old, so some time has passed since Kratos destroyed, then saved the world. The last wish of Faye, Kratos' dead partner, was to have her ashes scattered from the highest peak in the 9 realms. So Kratos and Atreus set off to climb the highest mountain they know of. Just as they're about to leave, however, the god Baldur attacks. Kratos fights him off and is able to set out on his journey, but Baldur can't really die, so he pops up again from time to time. Soon, Kratos and Atreus meet an unnamed witch, who later turns out to be Freya, who we even later find out is Baldur's mother. The game draws a parallel between the Spartan and the witch, as the paternal Kratos has hidden Atreus' godhood from him, thinking it to be for Atreus' sake, but ultimately just fearing having to tell Atreus of his past. Similarly, Freya made Baldur incapable of being killed against his own wishes, thinking it was in his best interest, when truly she didn't want to lose her son. But before we find out any of that, the father and son team overcome lots of new hardships, and even travel to another realm, before they're finally able to reach the peak of the mountain, as it's simply named. It's there that they're informed by Mimir that the actual highest peak in all the 9 realms, she did say all 9 realms after all, is in Jotunheim, the realm of the giants, who are to the Norse gods what the Titans were to the Greek gods. But Jotunheim is only accessible through a portal that requires items from a lot of different video game quests to open. At the peak, they meet Mimir, who accompanies Kratos and Atreus as a severed head. Soon, father and son are attacked by Magni and Modi, godsons of Thor. Kratos kills Magni while Modi gets away. Soon after, Atreus becomes ill from the disparity in knowledge, thinking himself immortal when he's really, a god. I guess that can make you sick. Why not? After Atreus is healed, Freya urges Kratos to tell Atreus of his godhood, and he does. This leads to possibly the clearest moment indicating that Kratos has changed, whether over the 10 or so years since the last game or during his journey with his son. The two encountered a weakened Modi, and Atreus, arrogant after learning of his godhood, kills the weakened god. Kratos erupts with anger, teaching Atreus that he was already defeated and his death was unnecessary. This is a far, far cry from the ghosts of Sparta of the past, who would bask in the opportunity to kill a god who threatened him and his son. Soon after, Kratos and Atreus face Baldur once again, this time protected by a Freya wanting nothing less than to see her son defeated. As the battle comes to a conclusion, it looks like Kratos has fallen into his own ways. He has his hands around Baldur's neck, but Atreus reminds him of his own lesson, and Kratos lets Baldur decide his own fate. This fate turns out to be killing Freya, and Kratos decides that means death. Apparently, a significant lesson in not killing isn't as big a deal as stopping a child from killing their parent on a quest for vengeance, a motivation he knows all too well. The game ends with Kratos and Atreus spreading Faye's ashes from the tallest mountain in Jotunheim, both having grown during their journey. Kratos has learned to trust Atreus, and rather than hide from hardships, deal with them. And Atreus has learned that underneath Kratos' cold hard exterior is a warm, caring man. Aww! Who would have thought a warrior so in love with the sight of the blood of his enemies, who ended up becoming the literal god of war, would eventually be a good dad? Probably not anyone who's only played the first God of War game, but now that the latest entry in the series is out, plus a bunch of sequels that really drive home the importance of Kratos' family, it feels right, and like it might be one of the better character arcs in video game history. Would you want Kratos to be your dad? Let us know in the comments. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the leaderboard, your home for video game facts.
Okay, hopefully you can see what I'm doing here, guys. Sounds like the music has stopped. Well, not music, but playlist has stopped. I am going to literally get Atreus done, all the brown on for now, because it's getting on time for me to get some food in me. Go hunting. If you heard a moment ago, that was my dog barking. She normally tells me it's tea time. Get my food, hurry up, I'm hungry. I'll have to take her for a walk and do all those things. Hopefully you'll join me next time, where I'll show you what I'm doing here a bit closer. I literally am just getting the base down now. Who are you barking at, dog? What are you doing, mutt? What's all? Oh, yeah. He's been his bow, which I just remembered. Kind of nice bow. He's quiver. That's the one. We're on his back. Still need to play the game. I was going to play it last night. Just Ended up not. Gotta get some gameplay in. Gotta get some gameplay in. Then again, it is Wednesday. Witness Wednesday. I don't know if I can be bothered tonight. So that game, I really feel like playing something else. Wait, what are you eating, you fucking idiot? Some of the men are meant to, so I look at you and give you attention, huh? You want attention? enough paint here. I will obviously give this another coat over. You can't see Jack, not really. But you will get a zoom in over on Instagram, guys, as I've been doing the past week or so. No, only a week, it's been a couple of days. Feels like a week. Because all I need to be doing is this. Nothing else that I've done. I really want to go do something though. Not sure what. Might go do that this afternoon. Might play a game. Maybe just go and get some nice food and do. Really am running out of paint now. Dire rates of the amount of paint. Not enough for a second coat, so I'm trying to get on here as much as possible. Not enough to start something else either, so this is pretty much going to be it. Get out, dog. Obviously got a tray of space to do. But that is all the paint I have for any use. Can't really do anything to the Mayor's tree with that. So I'm going to say call it. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Click the links that will appear. Don't forget to subscribe. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.